Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. And I get to bring you a normally edited version this week. Pretty much just, I think even before the last weekly Q&A aired, I had already cleared. I cleared at like 5 a.m. I think I released that at 7 a.m. So it was already kind of out of date, but I'm still in kind of a recovery process of my headband's all messed up right now. I'm in a recovery process still. My sleep has been okay, but I still feel quite tired after the adrenaline wore down. I think some of that is what I like to call post-clear depression, where you have strived for something, you want nothing more than to accomplish it, but once you accomplish it, you need to come up with something else to kind of feed that need now. So I think I'm kind of in that more mellow state at the moment. Not to mention, I just spent however long recording a video to update everyone on how everything's going with my mother. So that should be releasing the same day as this, so be sure to go check that out as well. But I get to bring you a normal Q&A this week, and I am very much looking forward to that. So thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. They don't have to. Everything on the channel is free here. Enjoy it no matter what, but they choose to support over there, and I appreciate it. Thank you to our patrons of Darkness, Khuja, Janova, and Kurenai Oni for going above and beyond. And with that, let's check out some questions. I noticed the first like 7 things I scrolled through were like, congratulations on the clear. You beat it before this video even came out. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey Haps, what's happening? I hope you have a happy day. It's a lot of hap. Question for the week. Thanks for your time. No, thank you for your time. What are your thoughts on triangle strategy? So I really like triangle strategy. I think it definitely has a few flaws. I think an unguided playthrough kind of yields an ending that you're never 100% satisfied with. But if you manage to get what is considered the true ending, then at the same time, it feels like maybe it could have stretched out a little bit longer. So it's this weird in between where it's a pretty long game, and at the same time, you wish it was longer, which I suppose is a good thing. The party members have great variety, lots of really well-written backstories, incredibly lovable characters. Decimal is a character in the game who is my absolute favorite. And the gameplay is largely is just largely good. There are some things that could probably be improved, or some things lost by not having something more like a job system, like people may have expected from Tactics. But that by no means takes away from the challenge of the game itself, and it can be an incredibly challenging game. So definitely high on my recommendation list if you're somebody who is interested in a Tactics style game. And I really hope to see more stuff like this coming from Team Asano, because their work has just been great over the past couple of years. Next one, hashtag Mrr. It's okay. I've done that before. Mrhappy Mondays. Hi, how you doing? I'm doing all right. What advice do you have for a veteran player taking 3 non-MMO players through a Realm Reborn? Let me read the rest. After hearing me gush about Endwalker, my friends decided to take the plunge. I sent them all an essay outlining the early game flaws. I'm trying to keep them focused on MSQ. I feel like that's a lot. I would sooner just say, there's a UI element that tells you all the most important quests. Focus on those, and if you want to do more side quests, feel free. And then at some point down the line, if you want to point them to anything specific, do that. But I think it's really important when new players are coming in to not overload them with stuff. Yes, the game may eventually do that itself, but just do the story, and then whenever any quest pops up in the log that isn't MSQ, do that as well. And you know what? If you miss something, we'll go back and do it later. But those are the most important things. Otherwise, it just feels like you're too much of a vet, and you're not treating them enough like new players. So my advice would be to slow down on the amount of information you're giving them. Maybe answer it as they get to certain parts, and let them just take it easy and enjoy the ride. This one's short. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Well met, Mr. Happy. I like that version of a hello. What's your favorite dessert? So funny thing you bring this up. I actually, the last few days, I've been, not on a cleanse, but what I've been trying to do is I've been clearing out the last bit of kind of snacks that are left over from Prague, from Ultimate Prague. And then I'm kind of moving towards kind of a new line of thinking, something closer to what I was doing in college, where essentially whenever I wanted a snack or something sweet, something that I was often exposed to. I instead, when I go to the store, I buy something in place of it. So if I want something sweet, you know, I can buy a fruit, for example. If I want something more savory or I want something more salty, then there are vegetables that I can pick up and cook into something like zucchini chips, or just buying whole like cherry or grape tomatoes, wash them off, eat those. Those are always really good. So it's funny you're asking me about dessert, because it's like the last thing I'm trying to think about right now. It's okay. I still got like a Snickers bar in there or something that still needs to go. Maybe that'll be my dessert. So funny thing, speaking of Snickers, one of my favorite desserts is the Snickers ice cream bars, which my girlfriend did buy for me for Prague. And like I said, that's actually what's in the freezer right now, is 1 or 2 of those left. While I love a lot of different things, you know, I love to experience food. I love to experience culture and joy through food. Dessert's always been really simple for me, just like a brownie or one of those Snickers ice cream bars. But I think if I were to just take something really basic, not go something super bougie, it would actually be the Snickers ice cream bar. Hashtag Mr. Happy. Okay, it's cut off a little bit, but you can see it. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hope you're doing well and are resting after a well-deserved ultimate kill. Not resting all the way. I've been keeping myself busy, but today is a little bit more chill. Today's question is regarding doing Savage with several groups on the same character. Do you have any special ways to handle it with your week 1 group, for instance? So I don't do a lot of raids on the same character across multiple groups, especially while there's still a weekly lockout. Something I started wondering after seeing Nest's video on P4S is that Whoops is playing with. If doing Prague with several groups is a common form to have several characters. Yes, that is common form. Whoops does indeed have multiple characters so that he can do that without hurting the loot for anybody else. So yes, that is common form. Or is the single week 1 skill kind of deal and you scatter after? It depends. Our schedule is really tough to keep. We have 5 different time zones in our static. So for us, it's get bis and then scatter. However, for most groups, it is normally, you know, week after week after week. And if they want to do stuff with other players, they usually have other characters on other data centers until things eventually unlock, which should be happening probably in like a couple months or so. So yeah, that's just what our arrangement is. Next one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy, longtime viewer, first-time asker. Congratulations on your ultimate clear. Thank you. My question is, after watching many groups Prague Ultimate for World First, it has piqued my interest in looking to join for the next Savage Ultimate races. Cool, nice. Do you have any recommendations on where the best place may be to look for a group of a similar mindset? Any recommendations, advice that you can give to someone new to the race scene? So first of all, before even thinking about whether or not you're new to the race scene, I don't know what your experience is in Savage. And that is first and foremost. Make sure you have a good amount of experience in Savage itself. Make sure that you have, ideally, a lot of groups that are looking for hardcore prog do actually really like it if you record your clears so they can see how you play, because they are going to be looking at that in terms of the quality of play that you bring to a group like that. Are you somebody who can regular call mechanics? How quickly do you learn mechanics? And that's what you're going to have to use because you don't have a pedigree of being in a hardcore race before. But as long as you can prove that pedigree in some manner, then it is just a matter of going to the recruitment Reddit, recruitment Discords, wherever you would normally go for recruitment, and just expressing this specific interest, being like, I'm looking to join, you know, the hardcore racing. And I would focus more on a hardcore group and less on a world first or race style entry, because hardcore groups essentially try to beat the fights in the first 2 or 3 days for Savage, and then usually in the first couple of weeks for Ultimate. And that allows you to kind of build pedigree to then be able to look for more hardcore groups if you feel like you're not being sated, if you want something more hardcore, more successful even. But you got to start somewhere. So I would say look for a hardcore group, a group looking to do 12 to 16 hours on release for, you know, however many, like 1, 2, 3 days, and make sure you are someone who is capable of putting the time aside, because it is a sacrifice to do these things, you know, paid time off or time not spent with family and or anything of that capacity, even if just for a few days, can be quite taxing on people. So make sure you are prepared for something of that caliber and just express trying to get into the hardcore scene before you take on the additional stress of being a team that is trying to place first in particular. Before I answer this one, there was a hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays before this, just saying that they really enjoy my content. So to that person, thank you. I'm glad that you enjoy the content. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hi. Congrats on the clear. Thanks. I was wondering, what is your daily routine for 14? Now you've cleared all the high-end content, do you still feel like there's progression to be made, mount farming, etc.? Or if you're taking breaks from 14 between big content patches? I always recommend taking breaks between big content patches. So for me, I've accomplished a lot so far in patch 6.1. I caught up to almost all my triple triad cards actually just today. I have BIS on a couple of different jobs, and while I am working on, tomes or weekly clears again to try and get BIS on like Black Mage or something of that capacity, I am taking it much easier now. If I do end up joining another DSR group on the side, just to either help them with prog or to help with re-clears or anything along those lines, that will probably consume a bit more time, but I'm focused right now a lot on YouTube, as well as anticipating a Final Fantasy 16 announcement, which I'm hoping we'll be getting by early June. Please let us get a 16 release date, because then I have an entire list of things that I'm going to be doing for the rest of the year, which I'll be sure to make an announcement for here on YouTube. But for daily routine, I mean, log in, do some hunts, maybe do some maps, and then, level a job or, do some roulettes. It really just matters. It's really all that matters is my weekly. Like on Tuesdays, I do a Goliath, I do Ultima Unreal, and then on Saturdays I'll be doing Ultimate to try and get re-clears for totems, for weapons, etc. Rich, we are going to be trying to help him out with Savage and Ultimate when the time comes. We just got to wrangle him and make sure that we can get him on a schedule, which is going to be tough, but we're looking to do that as well. But I'm going to be playing a bunch of other stuff. Sonic Origins comes out next month. Champions of the Continent for Octopath Traveler comes out next month. There's Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on July 29th. Again, I'm waiting on a 16 announcement, so I can do a whole huge event leading up to that. Final Fantasy XI's anniversary, I'm going to be logging in to do the Voracious Resurgence story quest, plus all the YouTube videos I normally do. Some people consider it a bit of a curse when you're popular for a particular game on YouTube or Twitch, because then branching out can be a little bit more tough. I do feel that, but I do also feel like I'm comfortable enough with how I've done that I can actually still take the time to do those things. And a lot of the interests are tangential anyway, like Pokemon and turn-based RPGs and stuff like that. So I just don't feel bad if I don't want to play 14 for a day. It's a matter of whether or not there's anything else I want to play. And sometimes that can be a struggle. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Wait, Mr. Happy Mondays, MHM. I like how I just made up a different thing than what you were actually intending. Hi, Haps. Hope your week has been well. Thanks. Congrats on the DSU. It's Drew. Its name is Drew, not Desu. Thank you. 2 questions. One, is there a good reason why there's no specific indicator for raid-wide magic or physical? I feel like they've said there is before. I don't buy it. This is a basic quality of life that needs to get put into the game. My friend really wants Saber Dance to be OGCD. What would that entail on the job? It would entail a massive potency debuff. They would also probably change the way that the main GCDs do work if that was the case, because the job is very much designed around the idea that you are going to be using GCDs on Saber Dance at the moment. Their entire resource generation is based around that idea. Their openers and reopeners are based around that idea. So if you take that away, then you have to probably rebalance all of those as well. So this would probably take a potency hit, as well as the way that the other abilities interact during your openers and reopeners, and the gauge would probably change as well. But you'd also probably get some more potency on some other skills as a return favor. So those would probably be the things that would happen to, just ease that idea in, which I don't think is going to happen. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey man, how you doing? I'm doing alright. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. Question, been jumping into Blue Mage and looking at some old raid videos, but they were before the level 70 spells got added. Do those new spells drastically change how tanking, healing, or DPSing go? I wouldn't say they drastically change them, but they make them drastically easier. There's a lot more powerful heals, a lot more powerful defensives, and a lot more powerful offensive skills. So it's easier because of those things. So if you do get those before approaching the old raids, your life will be easier. So definitely focus on getting things like Matra Magic and making sure that you have some of the basics from before the level 50, 60 stuff like Mighty Guard, White Wind. And then all of the primal spells are really, really good. Some of the different buffing skills, Moon Flute. It's just so powerful now that the old stuff dies even quicker than it already was. Oh, and Final Sting. Definitely get Final Sting. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, hello, hey, extra greetings in case anyone needs a spare. So far, no, but I'll hold on to those. Congrats on your clear. Thank you. Glad you can finally sleep. Me too. A rare League-related question. I have not kept up with League nearly enough. I caught like 2 games at MSI over the past few weeks during the group stage. How do you feel about the upcoming 12-10 durability patch? So again, I haven't been keeping up, so I'm not too familiar, but based on this, are you going to give it a go if it really does lower the overall damage in the game? I don't think that really matters so much for me. League has been more of a, I know if I play it, I'll have to experience people that bring out a side of me that I don't want, because I can usually keep it pretty chill, but other people, man, you just, you know what I mean. So it's like contagious. It's like a virus. As much as I love League, I don't think anything will make me play it ever again, unless it's just like a random for funsies time with a few friends. But as somebody who primarily played support, I don't know. Yeah, I get one shot from time to time, but it was whatever. I was kind of used to it. I kind of expected it. And so I never really felt like, oh, they need to reduce the amount of damage they take. I always just thought I needed to play better. So, yeah, I guess I'm just kind of neutral to the whole thing. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, hope you're doing well, and congrats on clearing DSR. Thank you. Roll actions like head graze, foot graze, leg graze, and low blow hardly ever seen a use in PvE and feel very out of place in the game's current state. Yo, you got to go do some deep dungeons, man. Is there any obscure old fights that require these actions? There are current fights for the silences. Now, foot graze and leg graze, I understand. That's the bind and the heavy. Head graze is very important. Now, I know that we've gotten kind of used to the idea of tanks doing the silencing, but it's not that head graze can't be used or doesn't exist. It's just that there's not normally enough silences to need 3 different ones. I will say, though, that all of these actions are immensely useful in deep dungeons. That is probably a big... Also, exploration zones. I'd say exploration zones, deep dungeons, and maybe even Criterion dungeons coming up. Those are the types of content where these things really, really shine. Yeah, they have uses in some of the old stuff, especially in low-level dungeons if you're really good at utilizing some of them. But they have their place, and they're unlikely to go anywhere because it would definitely change the landscape of how some of those activities are used and abused if we were to get rid of those, as well as a number of other actions. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good day to you, Mr. Happy. I hope you're doing well. Same to you. I'm a little tired. I've been talking for a little bit, so hopefully I'll be wrapping this up soon enough. But, you know, we still got some questions. Final Fantasy 14 is my first Final Fantasy game. Which games would you recommend I play to get into the franchise? Which game should I avoid? You know, it's funny. I'm actually going to be releasing my tier list of all the main numbered Final Fantasy games, probably in the next couple of weeks. But I'll give you a quick TLDR. I would personally avoid Final Fantasies 2, the 3D version of Final Fantasy 3, and realistically, I think those are the only 2 that you absolutely should avoid. While I have others that are kind of low on my interest list, or ones that I just outright don't like, I don't think fundamentally they're worth avoiding. Like, I'm not a big fan of Final Fantasy 9, but would I tell someone to not play it? No, because I think it's really down to how I feel about it and not about how it fundamentally is. Whereas with Final Fantasies 2 and 3, while you could theoretically enjoy 2 and the 3D version of 3, the Pixel Remaster of 3 is fine. I could recommend that in a heartbeat. But, sorry, I hit my mic. The 3D version of 3, no. Those have big fundamental flaws that can make them very difficult to get into. And the Final Fantasy 1 kind of as well. Final Fantasy 1's very middle of the road. Like, you might not love it, but you probably won't hate it. And you'll at the very least, appreciate it. But the big ones for me, I think most people would recommend 7. Even if you don't like it, it has such a monumental place in the franchise's history that it's a big one. 6, if you're looking for the retro. 6, 4, 5, or 6 are all good starting points if you're looking for the retro titles in particular. For me, if I had to pick a PlayStation 1 title, I would probably recommend 7. It's not like one of my favorites across the whole franchise, but I like it more than 8 and 9 at the very least, so there's that. If you're looking for something a little more modern, 10 is one of my absolute favorites. And Zodiac Age doesn't really represent a lot of the rest of the franchise, but it is pretty good if you pick up Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age. 13, very divisive. I think it is the closest to a modern game, even amongst 15, of a modern rendition of what most people would like really define Final Fantasy with. But it's a very, very divisive game. So that's a maybe, but probably not your best first choice. You might want to play some other ones first. And the same kind of goes for 15. I'd probably play a different one before 15 just to get an idea of the franchise as a whole before digging into something that has a bit of a different idea and a different approach to the Final Fantasy franchise. And soon to be 16, but 16 would even if I love 16 or 7 Remake as well, I would still recommend playing some of the older retro games to get a real feel of the history before diving into the innovations and the new stuff. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, hope you and your family are doing well. Hey, there will be a video out about that soon. Thank you. My question is, what are your thoughts on the quote-unquote homogenization or simplification from... Why was homogenization... Oh, never mind, because simplification is a word you like better. From jobs in PvE. Lately, there have been a few content creators talking about this and how the devs have been on a trend of making jobs less complex while the devs implied intent on catering to a wider audience. And then this goes on to talk about samurai stuff. So when I think of homogenization... Or I think you're right that goes in quotes, whereas simplification is a better way of putting it. Because when I play every different job in Final Fantasy XIV, while I can ultimately achieve a similar thing by playing any of them, the way I feel when I'm achieving that power is drastically different from job to job. I don't get the same rush playing Samurai, for example, as I do playing Monk. And I don't get the same rush playing Red Mage as I do playing Black Mage. When it comes to the tanks, you know, I'll play Warrior or Paladin, but I'm not too excited about playing Gunbreaker or Dark Knight. But if they were all homogenized, don't you think that wouldn't matter which way I feel, because they've all been essentially brought to being nearly the same? You know what I mean? A lot of it comes down to the feel of a job and what it actually means to you when you're playing it. Access to power. And the big thing they've been doing is trying to streamline how you actually get access to your power. And I think at some points they miss the mark on what the community wants versus what makes sense. And I think that sometimes they don't even do what makes sense, even if it is what the community wants. So it really depends on the job. And I think everyone has a different look on things depending on the jobs that you're actually interested in. I think there will be a point they go too far. And some people would argue that Kaiten's removal on Samurai might have been that step. I personally don't think it was. I think maybe Summoner might have been closer to going a little too far in terms of simplification for how it was incorporated in Endwalker, even if, again, I do enjoy playing it. So it's a little bit tough to say. I personally don't feel it when I am actually working on playing a job and playing it well. But that's just me. Maybe I'm just focused on having fun, and as long as I'm having fun, I'm not thinking too much about the what-ifs, hows, or whatevers. Oh, there was actually a bonus question at the bottom here. As I was scrolling past, I just noticed it. Is there any precedence for the devs rolling back or reverting a job change that was not well received? At this point, I don't even know if I would be happy with the changes 6.1 Samurai, even if they were reverted entirely. The only one that really comes to mind of a reversion of changes is every time Energy Drain has been removed. Every time they try to get rid of Energy Drain on Scholar, they end up just giving it back. So maybe that, but I can't think of any other one off the top of my head. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hope you're well. Same to you. Been watching your videos for a bit now. One thing I'm very curious about, why you're always so excited about the prospect of making Gil. Like when they announce the Unreal mounts and such. You always say you're not interested in housing, and since you've been playing since 1.0, think it's safe to assume you're not someone who just has a few million Gil at any time. So what do you do with all the Gil? I hoard it. I have 317 million Gil, and I just sit at that number, and I just like to see it go up. It's just nice to be like, yo, I made a fat sale, even if I have nothing to buy. The idea is that if they ever incorporate things that I actually do need that Gil for example, a mount that costs 50, 75 million Gil, who knows, I can just buy it. And then I can focus on trying to make the money back, because I don't want to have no Gil. I don't want to be poor. So I treat, every time I like raise my maximum Gil, I try to make that my 0. So I feel more encouraged to maintain that level of Gil, which then becomes content for me, which is really the most important thing, is this constant sense of content and progression. And so when I want to make Gil, that becomes part of it. So that's really all it is. And besides, you know, I'm not spending it on anything. It's not going back into circulation. So maybe I'm helping reduce inflation. Probably not, but I can believe it. All right, and the remainder of the questions are things that I have, either a topic I've already touched upon in a video very recently, and thus I really don't want to answer the question again, or literally, I guess literally, they're more statements, I suppose, that I would just be going over, so I've kind of just, like, moved on. One of them is about Dark Knight. To the person who asked about Dark Knight, I'm not an expert on Dark Knight. I feel like I have no authority with which to provide you any sort of opinion on it. Like, I could have one, but for someone who's a career Dark Knight, I mean, I don't find my opinion on it valuable, I suppose. There was one about, like, do you have any comment about when a tank tries to solo a boss when the party wipes? I like to root the tank on, if anything. And I've seen a lot of really cool stories where people just like to root the tank on to see if they can finish it. They're not really holding the dungeon hostage, Jesus, so much as they're just trying to, you know, be that last man standing, fulfill that, like, power fantasy of I was the only one left and I made it happen. So, I mean, I think it's kind of cool. I like when people do that. There was someone asking if they should do first-time dungeons with trusts or pugs. I actually think Trust can really teach you the dungeon mechanics, or at least give you an idea of how the dungeon mechanics work before you play with other people. Not that it's a bad thing if you learn with other people either, so it comes down to preference, but I just recommend Trusts in case you're nervous, you're someone with a little bit more nerves. Somebody who is asking, do I know anyone who likes Alisaie? Yeah, I know a lot of people who love Alisaie. Alisaie's good fun. I like her. She's not so dull or dreadful to be around. She's a bit of a drama queen, but that's about it. She always makes me laugh. There was, and I think that might have been the last one. Yeah, in terms of like questions that are not just things that I've already answered in other recent videos, I think that is the last one, unless I accidentally scrolled past one, in which case, my apologies. But anyway, I've been talking for a while now. I'm going to go rest my voice for the rest of the day, edit together one other fun little video for you guys on top of the one with my mother, and that's going to be a wrap for this episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. If you have a question for next week's episode, be sure to leave it in the comment section of the video below, and I'll do my best to get to it. Include a hashtag with it so that way I can identify it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see all of you in the next one, and until then, take care.